ultimately can destroy people. In Proverbs he says, with his mouth the godless man would destroy his neighbor. Would destroy his neighbor. But by knowledge the righteous are delivered. The mouth of a godless man would destroy his neighbor. Can you imagine that a position would be held about a man and the position not even be true because someone with his mouth so destroyed that person's reputation? By the way, it is so dangerous in America, especially for a minister. It's dangerous for you at times, I suppose, as well. But people want so desperately to believe that which is wrong or negative. It's just about you could make up something and the whole world would grasp it, write it up in the paper, and everybody would believe it, and it'd be the furthest thing from the truth. You understand that? How desperate the world is to grab the negatives. So when I say something negative, they're like, boom, they readily are believing it about that person. Because there's an inherent sense in man, they want to believe the worst about people. I know it sounds wicked, but it's true. We like to hear the bad things about people. And that shows us something about our own heart. Think about that. I like and rejoice to hear evil things about other people. That just don't sound right when you say it out loud. It also, the devastating effects of slander, it stirs up contention. For lack of wood, the fire goes out. Where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases. You have a church in turmoil, you got a bunch of parties and everybody's saying, all these things are going on. I can tell you right off at the front, there's somebody running gossip and slander through the church. That's just what's going on. There's talk going everywhere, and all these things are being developed and hurting lots of people. Not only does it stir up contention, it spreads strife. A false witness who breathes out lies and one who sows discord among the brothers. That's what he does, and it causes great strife in the church. The effects of slander is fitting for fools. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and the one who utters slander is a fool. The one who utters slander is a fool. So we're not supposed to use that word. You're not supposed to call anybody a fool. The fool that said in his heart there is no God, so I know it's there and I know it's here. A slanderer is a fool. It's foolish. And James is going to tell us why in just a moment. But it is very, very foolish to slander others. Let me give you a couple of illustrations. All of these would be sermons in themselves. Let me just give you the illustrations. One a little bit more specific than the others. Laban's son slandered Jacob in Genesis 31. Ziba slandered Jonathan's son Mephibosheth to David in 2 Samuel. Jezebel, remember old Jezebel, she instigated two worthless men to slander Naboth, which led to his execution. She got two worthless people to slander him. He ends up getting executed over the deal. The Jews' enemies returned from exiles. They slandered them to the Persian overlords, causing the work of rebuilding Jerusalem to be halted. The Arabian king Gashmu slandered the returning exiles and Nehemiah, claiming they plotted to rebel and make Nehemiah their king. Haman, the foe of the Jews, slandered them to the Persian king Ahasuerus. David was slandered. John the Baptist was slandered. Jesus was slandered. The Apostle Paul was slandered. All of them are targets of slander. And here's one of the greatest, most catastrophic stories of slander in all of Scripture. You ready? This all, what I'm going to tell you, happens simply because somebody says something falsely about David and have no justifiable reason for what they're saying. It happened between the Ammonites and the Syrians, and David had heard about the death of this man's father. David felt compassion for the man's father. He wanted to show some comfort and console that man because he had lost his father. So he sends a group of comforters to go and comfort him. Well, as they go to comfort him, the Ammonite princes, they say to their leader, you know that's not what David's doing. David don't love you. David don't care about you. You don't think that he sent all these people to comfort you, do you? Surely David didn't do that. What he did is he sent them over here to act like they're going to comfort you, but actually they're spying out the city, and then he's going to come in here and kill everybody. That's what they said. It was so far from the truth it's not even real. But that's what they said about David. So what did he do? He believed the slander. He believed the report about David. He shaved their beards, shaved their heads, took their clothes off at hip high and sent them back home. It's embarrassing for grown men to walk home together with no pants on back home. That's embarrassing. David says, you go over here and you stay here until your beards grow back, and then we'll let you come back, because I know it's very embarrassing. They did all of that because he believed slander. The thing got really out of control after that. David got up in arms and he sent Joab. When you send Joab, somebody's dying. Over 40,000 horsemen were killed. Over 40,000 were killed. All why? Because a group of people gave a false report about David, and it caused over 40. Can you imagine? We talk about a tornado. Oh man, 8 people were killed. It's a great tragedy. Over 40,000 because of slander. By the way, we should know that the originator of slander is Satan himself, is he not? From the very beginning. Did God actually say, don't put that on my God? Yes, God did say, don't infringe upon His character. He slandered God to Eve. Let me remind you of this. There are 6 things that God hates. 7 are an abomination. 2 of those things, a lying tongue, and one who sows discord among the brethren. A lying tongue and one who sows discord among the brothers. You can interpret however you want. The text says that's what God hates. He hates it when someone sows discord among the brethren. God will judge the slander. You can be assured of that. The psalmist says this, why do you boast of evil, O mighty man? The steadfast love of God endures all the day. Your tongue plots destruction. Like a sharp razor, you work deceit. You love evil more than good. You love lying more than speaking what is right. Say lie. You love all words that devour, O deceitful tongue. But God will break you down forever. He will snatch and tear you from your tent, and He will uproot you from the land of the living. Say lie. It's a great injunction against God to slander a brother. Now, secondly, a dangerous position. I know if you're following on the back of your bulletin, you're thinking there's a whole lot left. But it's okay. It's not going to take near that amount of time now that we kind of have it described. This is God's position about slander, about speaking evil against a brother. And there's many more that we could name. It puts us in a dangerous position. This is not a position I don't think that you want to be put in, but when you slander, it is the case. It puts us in a position against a brother. If you're speaking evil against a brother, you're in position against him. If you weren't against him, you wouldn't be speaking evil of him. If you were for him, you would be speaking in a different manner. Paul warns us about that in Galatians 5. We don't have time to go there. But here, in the law of God, love of neighbor, as James has already mentioned back in 2:8 or so, James 2:8, if you really fulfill the royal law. What is the royal law? It has to do with love and love of neighbor. If you were to ask Jesus, what is the greatest command then? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Would you tell everything you're telling about your brother about yourself? Would you post about your brother? Would you post those same things about you for the whole world to read? Would you want it gladly put on the billboard that this is how you are? Love your neighbor as you'd love yourself. Surely you wouldn't publish yourself that way. Why are you publishing them? Not judge your brother. Passing judgment upon the lives and actions of other people. Passing an unfavorable judgment upon, criticizing, finding fault with, condemning. In verse 11, he says, or judges his brother. This that he is referring to in this judgment, it is not referring to evaluation, but to condemnation. Condemning another brother. Matthew 7:1, we've quoted often, and I know many people take it out of context, but it still has a right application. Do not judge lest you be judged. A wrong, false, unrighteous judgment of speaking evil against a brother puts you in a precarious situation. It puts you in a position as in opposition to your brother. Secondly, this whole deal is a portrayal of our view of the law of God. I would say in the Old Testament and 10 Commands, there's a codified implication. The implication of every one of the 10 Commandments is love. In every commandment, there's an underlying bedrock foundation that has to do with love. Listen very quickly. No other gods before me. Love is not fickle. It's single-minded and devoted, and it's loyal. No idols. Love is faithful. Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. Love is respectful to its object. No breaking of the Sabbath. Love is the intimate and fully devoted to its object. No dishonor to parents. Love is submissive to authority. No murder. Love values human life. No adultery. Love is pure. It desires purity in its object. No stealing. Love contains an unselfish nature. No lying. Love is truthful. No coveting. Love possesses an unselfish contentment. Love is interwoven throughout the 10 Commandments. Jesus thus emphasized love of the Lord and neighbor being the height and the greatest of all the commandments. What am I saying? When you take up and speak evil against a brother and judge a brother, you are taking a position that says the law of God is wrong and I know better. Because the very bedrock implication of the commandments is love. And when you're speaking evil against a brother, you are not showing love. And you've judged the law to be wrong and yourself to be right and have the right and the authority to say evil things about another person. And so you have thrown out the law of God in order to justify your own position, elevate yourself in your own eyes, and tear someone else down. It is dangerous to be in a position where you have nullified the law of God for your own fleshly desires. It is also a picture of our view of God. To place yourself above the law of God is to place yourself above God. By the way, it's the position that most resembles Satan in Isaiah 14, where 5 times he says, I will, I will, I will, I will. And all those I wills have to do with putting himself up above God upon God's throne. To usurp God's rightful place is the essence of all sin, because in all reality, every sin is ultimately against him. When I judge my brother, speak evil against my brother, I've taken a position of judgment against the law. I have put myself in a position as an enemy of God. My sin is against God, and I've put myself in a position as to be His enemy. James says it very clearly now. I don't know this to be addressed specifically to any other sin than the sin of slander and judging falsely. And here it is. James says in verse 12, there is only one lawgiver. It's the only time this word is used anywhere in the Scriptures. He's a lawgiver and he's a judge. A lawgiver is the one who puts the laws in place. A judge is the one who applies the law that is put in place.